So grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many sessions does this go?
You've got to get mad. You've got to say,
I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
We're not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Thank you, Howard.
And good evening, and welcome to the Traffic Report. It's 12:02 by now, maybe 12:03 on the East Coast. And from the non-moonlit mountains of Southwest Virginia to the city of brotherly love, how the hell are you, Howie?
I'm all right, John. I'm all right. Little angry tonight, but
Are you mad as hell?
Yeah, I am. Actually, I am, because it's hard to be Is it Weinstein or Weinstein? Because I don't really give a shit, to be perfectly honest with you.
But I could care less. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't care less. It just brought up the fact, it made me realize that we haven't done a show on Hollywood, and But, I guess it's a perfect time to start talking about it. And, honestly, with all the information that's out there, I mean, it could be many, many, many shows. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see where this goes tonight. We're not exactly sure because it could go in a lot of different directions. And hopefully people will start, send some tweets out and
live tweet with us. Come on, I know you're out there. I see the Twitter line moving. So.
Unless we're shadow banned, and then we won't see them. I feel like I'm very shadow banned right now, so who knows?
I think we're the traffic report followed a Hollywood actor today, Terry Crews, who and I'm hoping this is what happens. And I had even before today when I heard, I was like joyous when I heard that fat piece of shit, was being forced out, because you just knew he was a scumbag. Those stories had followed him, for years. He's buddy with the Clintons and their pedophile network empire. And that for that asshole to walk away from that job, they've got to have some unbelievable shit on him. And I just want to shout out to Terry Crews, and if you haven't, follow him on Twitter and at TerryCrews. He's an actor, a very well-known actor, who has decided since Weinstein is out, it was time for him to come forward, and he's talking about sexual assaults that happened to him as an adult male, and right in front of his wife in Hollywood. And that takes a lot of guts to come out, and especially, and we're going to talk about that. The whole, it's just it's a meat grinder, not only for children, but if you can imagine, we were talking about this earlier, Howie, that if they can do this to a pretty large male guy who's in very good shape. Imagine what these kids are going through. I mean, the story is a
former NFL football player.
Yeah, and and that I didn't know. But he tweeted out, I think, about 20 tweets to explain, what had happened to them, and this guy, whoever it is, another Hollywood executive, did this right in front of the guy's wife. And I can't even imagine the restraint this guy must have had to show not to just kill this motherfucker. I mean, it's incredible. And it just gives you a little window into the meat grinder that is Hollywood. And it's really not, I mean, it's the propaganda factory, so it's not really surprising.
Well, what we should really be hoping is that this opens up the door. Okay, fine. Obviously we know that, sexual assaults go on in Hollywood. So let's, and nobody likes to talk about it, even though it's basically common knowledge now. And hopefully we get that out in the open, and then let's start finding out the ages of the people that are being sexually assaulted. Because I mean, and I'm speaking solely from opinion at this point, that it doesn't even matter what the age is. That it's like anything that they want, they just take. And if you want to be, it's like the kid getting on the bus from Iowa and landing down in Hollywood, and it's like anything you got to do to make it in that town. And there's a lot of parents that are bringing their kids to this town. So,
and that know what's going on, and one of the best documentaries, and look on our I'm actually going to tweet it into our Twitter line, but it's also in the show notes, is on YouTube, and it's let me see, let me do that. You talk while I get that and tweet it out, because I'm not a very good multitasker.
That's all right with the Open Secret. But once again, I mean, Open Secret is one of these films where they're naming names. The people that were the children that were sexually assaulted, they were teenagers or in their early 20s at this point. They're on a documentary saying exactly what happened to them in detail. I mean, talking about being in a pool with certain people and being at certain people's houses. I mean, I'm not going to remember the names, but I mean, just, and just, they completely passed the smell test of being credible. It would be to go, to make this stuff up. It would just be nearly impossible. Yeah. And it's out there. And what happens? Nothing. Just like everything else. Well, wait a second. They're talking about what, Class A felonies? I'm not well versed in the law. I mean, they're talking about felonies. Child rape, sexual abuse, molestation, whatever they want to call it.
It's a rape, and it's rape of a child.
Nobody in the FBI saw this documentary? Like, what, that you can't go and speak to these people and say, hey, what happened? I mean, there's no statute of limitations on this. But it's like everything else, it's just out there. Those who see it, great, and then nothing happens. It's like sending it down the dead end.
Yep. And again, we're calling on, and we had that big thing. Sessions got in. Oh yeah, we're doing this and that about pedophilia.
Well, you know what? No, yeah.
And they had operations going on, and they put a bunch of low grade pedophiles and child rape image collectors in jail, which is a good start. But you would think, I mean, it's on YouTube, Howie, for Christ's sake, that this task force that was going coast to coast to put all these pedophiles away, they might have watched that. And went and talked to these people because they're still around, and talked to people like Corey Feldman and Todd Bridges. Right. And, we're going to do a little historical, but that town has been shit, since it was ever invented. I mean, it was basically, got going in the 1920s, and that shit was going on right through there. And it really, if you want to kind of get an idea of how seedy it was, and it still is. Have you ever seen L.A. Confidential, the movie?
Yes, I have. Absolutely. Great.
That was a good, and I don't think that went far enough, but it was a good snapshot of that whole town worked, how the cops were, basically paid off and aided and abetted all this stuff that's going on. We have people like L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Satan operating in this same area. I mean, it's just
right. It's a different. It's like a different set of rules just apply in this town. Now, what we're going to take it to is because people are now fixated on this. He's a sexual harasser, Harvey Weinstein. But
perfect.
What they don't want to do, what they don't want to do is to start bringing it down and saying, "Oh, wait a second, there's a lot of kids in Hollywood," So
that's why I think Terry Crews is so important, because that's showing you what they would do to a big dude, right in front of his wife. And if you think that's and they're already, the media gets a hold of it, and that's their angle, that Harvey was just, he sexually harassed, adult women. Bullshit. If you don't think that fat fuck was like that with everybody that he came in contact with, you're out of your mind. It's like, oh, okay, so he would draw the line if the girl was 18 or 16 or whatever. Horse shit.
You can tell. You can tell.
It's a whole culture,
Right.
And this son of a bitch was the king of that culture. He was, with the Clintons and all the power brokers. This, you just know that he's up to his eyeballs in this shit, and I'm hoping, that's what's going to come forward.
And you were saying earlier, like how bad it must be, for him to be fired from his company. Meryl Streep, who, jokingly called him a god, but then had to disavow him. There's a lot more here. There's
that's another way. When the rats start deserting the sinking ship, I think even didn't Hillary tweet out something about, or was it whoever runs her Twitter account? Or I haven't. Yeah. Let me look and see if I can find that tweet, because I think even Hillary had to comment on this. And while she was doing that, maybe she should have talked about Jeffrey Epstein and the special relationship her husband and her and Alan Dershowitz have with Epstein and their little island down there.
Well, I mean, they're dead. I mean, there's a lot of, even though right now it's not about pedophilia in Hollywood, there's a lot of potential to open up the door about, sexual harassment, sexual abuse in general. And then because, it's hard to lead with, pedophilia. People just don't want to hear it. You got the tweet?
Here it is. Jesus Christ. And she didn't have, of course, because, I mean, why would she actually address this herself? But this is her secretary. Put this statement out on Harvey.
Oh.
I was shocked and appalled by the revelations about Harvey Weinstein. The behavior described by women coming forward cannot be tolerated. Their courage and the support of others is critical in helping to stop this kind of behavior. What about the shit that she squashed that was worse than this? And I know there's worse than this going on with Harvey. It's a matter of time. But she was at the State Department when she covered up, State Department employees, and I believe, the intelligence agencies that protect them, raping kids all over the world. That was shut down but she's appalled at this type of behavior.
I mean, that was reported on mainstream. I mean, that was like the Today Show reporting this in 2013. And once again, it right down the same, the same alley where all the, the same dead end that everything else goes, and it just stops and it's out there and, move on to the next. It's like,
and she couldn't even put this out. Okay, whoever the fuck Nick Merrill.
Oh yeah, well she can't. Yeah, she can't. Of course she can't. No.
Why not? Why? All of a sudden that big mouth doesn't have anything to say.
How much money he donated to her campaigns over the years.
I know.
And all his associates.
But if you're going to retweet that, have some balls, Hillary. At least make a statement yourself about it. Don't let some other guy tweet a statement from your secretary. I mean, really?
Not to get up. Well, come on, John. I mean, not to get off on too much of a tangent, but she couldn't even give a concession speech the night, that she lost, and she had to have Podesta get up there and tell everyone to go home and we'll see you in the morning. And then they came up as though like, oh, all right, well, yeah, I guess we kind of lost. Come on. It's unprecedented. But anyway, let's not. I don't want to get on Hillary just yet because that. I mean,
right, I'm gonna go throw up and I'll be back in 37.
Yeah, but Hollywood and Hillary go hand in hand, and do they hate their Donald Trump, and they just love their Democrats. So one political note. And here, I'm going to get screwed up again with the Feinstein or the Feinstein. It's Dianne Feinstein. She will be running. She's declared that she will be running for her 6th term. It's like a 5th and a half term. Her first term was only a half term. It was a special election. But she will be running for her 6th term, 5th and a half, in 2018 at the age of 85. She will be 91. She will be 91 and a half. She was born in June. And she will be 91 and a half because she'll win. And she'll be 91 and a half when she finishes her 6th term in the Senate. Because she just hasn't had enough yet.
And people really wonder why nothing gets done in Congress and that they're all corrupt.
Well,
I guess they are.
They can have California. They can have New York. But I'm telling you right now, man, it's shrinking. Maybe some, Massachusetts. But I'm telling you, they're a mess. They're a mess. But tonight it's about Hollywood. And man, John, where do you want to start? I mean, where do we even start with all the accusations, all the? I mean, how about the Corey Feldman is, just, I think it's a great place to start because he came out and said it.
Yeah. And the two Coreys and the two Coreys and you were talking about Drew Barrymore, those kids, Stand By Me. That was, and get another director, Steven Spielberg, and it's just my opinion, but I'm pretty sure that's who Corey wants to name, but he can't name. And he was around all those kids, the E.T. and, Drew Barrymore and the two Coreys and, and directors, we're talking about directors and that is a good place to start, but let's go back a little bit further because we had, good old Roman Polanski, who was charged in a court of drugging a 13-year-old girl and having sex with her and was going to be convicted, but he fled the country. And scumbags, I think like Meryl Streep, if I'm not mistaken, are calling for, how he was wrongly accused and how he should be pardoned and allowed to come back to the United States. And if it's not her, I apologize, Meryl, but I'm pretty sure it was her. And I will find out, but there are a number of celebrities in that whole stinking culture out there that is actually called for this scumbag to be able to come back to the United States. To what? Abuse more kids? And go back to what he was doing in Pretty Baby, with Brooke Shields, a 12-year-old kid, and the sexual content of that movie. We were talking about Jodie Foster and Scorsese, having her as a 12-year-old. I mean, couldn't they have told that story with an 18-year-old prostitute, or, they had to use a 12-year-old kid? How did that and
well, but if they were using a 12-year-old and it was, and it was supposed to be, realistic. I mean, why weren't, I was young. Taxi Driver was 76, so I was only 7. I didn't pay attention to it. But why weren't people? Wait a second, are there 12-year-old prostitutes in New York? Is this what's going on? What? Wait a second, stop!
Yeah,
everything stopped. Like
that's a very good point because everybody was up in arms about her being in the movie. But nobody was up in arms about the fact that it was portraying real life and probably even.
What's the inspiration for this? This is what's going on. People. Yeah. If I'm in Philadelphia and I go up to New York, I'm seeing the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, blah blah blah. I'm not, hanging around 42nd Street at that time and checking out, child prostitutes. And if this was such a thing, why wasn't anybody doing anything about it? Was Scorsese trying to, send a message like, hey, we need to do something? Or was it just like, hey, or desensitizing people to it and because, predictive programming and blah, blah, blah.
I don't know. And I think, I kind of like Scorsese, and he, I think at that time, he was just a guy, that was making movies in New York,
right? And he knows about but he knew about these. He knew about these things. But
oh yeah,
but it still keeps coming back to me on the FBI. And I'm going to have to look up the number again. I believe there's 37,000 FBI employees. I don't know how many there were in 1976. It's like with these things, like what do they do? What are they investigating? We pride ourselves on, there's so much rhetoric, protect the children, help the children, do this, save the children, everything for the children.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is the FBI doing?
Zero.
CIA,
Well,
I mean, this is a matter of, to me, this is a matter of national security.
Yeah, if we were a nation who really cared about children, that would be true. But we don't want to actually do it. We want to appear like we do it.
Exactly, and it's just lip service, and that's what that's what we're finding out over and over and over again. And when you bring we bring these things up, and when you say it's on a mass scale, people will call you crazy. But then if you try and bring something concrete to their attention, I don't want to talk. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about that. But if you say, but this is pretty big. Oh, you're crazy. Well, if you start, okay, Corey Feldman came out and said it. You have the Michael Jackson thing. You have Macaulay Culkin, Todd Bridges, Drew Barrymore. The Drew Barrymore at 8 years old is, and she comes out, and I don't remember when her article came out. She was a teenager by then, basically saying that she was going to parties and doing cocaine when she was around 8, 9 years old. Part of the, Barrymores go back to Lionel Barrymore was an actor. He was in It's a Wonderful Life. I guess it was her great-grandfather. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, that whole family was
the Barrymores. Yes, the Barrymores
institution.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Yeah, and I can still remember the story. Doing cocaine and partying. And she has got drug problems and all this stuff. But it's my first. I mean, even back then, I was thinking to myself, well, wait a second. What party is this girl at? Where does an 8-year-old go to get cocaine?
Yeah, and obviously, all the 100 or 200 people that were there and whoever was putting it on, they had no idea that was going on.
Oh, no, we're just having a party. Oh, Barry, yeah, right. I mean, she probably bought her own cocaine, at 8 years old, parents, I tend to think of it like this too, is especially the families that have grown up in that, meat grinder. That's just another form of generational, the abuse cycle. Absolutely.
It went on with the grandfather, and it went on with the father, and it goes on, and it's still going on, but the thing is, a lot of these kids are dead, and the River Phoenixes and the Dana Platos and the even Gary Coleman, who knows? We're talking about that, and according to what Todd Bridges has said, that the three of them were victims of that, and to have he was talking about that one show that they did about the molester guy, and how it was rubbing him so badly the wrong way that he didn't even want to be there, and how rich of them, because you know that the producers and the directors and that whole society, they knew what was happening to these kids. There's no way that can go on in an environment like that, and them not know that that's what's happening. So that had to be just accepted practice, and it sounds like, and it has been in Hollywood for pretty much as long as it's been around. It's been just a den of vipers.
For anyone that's not familiar, there I grew up watching Different Strokes, so this was a little later on. I mean, it's Different Strokes started in the late 70s, ran till the I would say potentially mid 80s. So this is probably around 1982, and literally out of nowhere, they run a 2-part episode on child molesting, and Arnold, Gary Coleman, and his friend Dudley, they were going to a bike shop, and they wanted a bike or whatever, and the bike shop owner was a pedophile. So, he was like a fun guy. The actor's name was Gordon Jump. He was on a show called WKRP in Cincinnati. He was the station manager. Okay. So he's right. So he's the bike shop owner, and basically the show, like, Arnold, I think somebody wants a bike, and he's like, well, maybe you could do some stuff around here, blah, blah, blah. And he invites him to the, his little room in the back of his bike shop where he lived. It was his apartment. And, and basically he's grooming Arnold and Dudley, as a pedophile. So, and it's very, very, it's very, very creepy the way it's done. And it, different strokes. I mean, it had some social issues in it at the time, but it really seems out of left field. And you can watch it. It's on YouTube now. And I recommend everyone to watch it, because it's probably the only time that I can remember that pedophilia has been discussed like that. And I watched a lot of TV in the 70s and 80s. Nothing like that. And if you just completely out of left field. And and it gets to the point where it got real creepy. And we're for a sitcom, and for Todd Bridges to say that he was molested, and I don't know what's happening with Dana Plato or Gary Coleman, because they never came out and said it, but Dana Plato's dead now and had a drug problem. It just seems very, very, very odd at best.
Yeah, and it seems also that a lot of these children, because there's a statistical average for addiction. And that can, I think, get higher or lower, depending on, environment. And it just seems like there's a disproportionate number of children that go into Hollywood as young children, and that end up, dying, through addiction, and that's, I don't suppose that'll be getting studied. But now that Harvey's out, maybe everything will change in Hollywood. Howie, do you think?
I mean, listen, if you're talking about like draining a swamp, I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible. And maybe an actor like James Woods, who's been around the block, many, many, many times, he seems like he's at the point where he doesn't care what happens. And he's going to say what's on his mind.
Somebody, and look at, I mean, Jerry had the balls to come out and make this public. So anybody else, are you telling me James Woods doesn't know of shit that have already, what are you waiting for, James? It's like, right. Get on with it. This is a guy who's half your age that has a hell of a lot more to lose than you ever would. Or any other, De Niro or, some of them just stand up and it's like, it's like we're talking about the FBI again. We know that they're good people in the FBI. We know that they're good people in the CIA, but it's going to take, well-known, well-respected individuals in all these different USA Gymnastics, the Boy Scouts, to stand up and be heard and point the finger, where it needs to be pointed, and that this is going to stop,
Right, but we, and I obviously, I've been talking about these dead ends where there's evidence and there's people, like I said, I mean, Corey Feldman goes on and says that pedophilia is the secret in Hollywood, and this is, he's saying it dead seriously.
And that was on like prime time, wasn't it? Wasn't that?
Yeah. I think it was a 2020 interview.
Yeah, 2020.
Now, believe him, not believe him, whatever the case, you didn't name names and all this other stuff. Now you're watching this. He's talking about felonies. He's talking about,
major felonies and
major felonies, horrendous felonies, and he's not talking about one. He's talking about felonies.
Yeah. Now,
okay, so he could go on and say these things. Well, now this gentleman, he was, probably in his 30s at the time. he's aware of crimes. Well, as a FBI special agent, I would like to talk to that person. So, but why wasn't he approached about these things?
Well,
it's
we
that.
know. Why does Operation what was it, Broken Heart? It had 4 phases over 2 years, and they never got around. They never talked to any of the kids in an open secret who are around.
Exactly.
They're alive.
The same exact thing.
Feldman,
and that may be the reason. And that may be the reason why people do not speak up, because they know they're going to speak up, and nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
I think almost like the bigger question is, why is nothing happening? And getting back to the intro, until people stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, nothing may get done.
I'm hoping that people are opening their windows and yelling that out right now. And if there was anybody close to me, I would. But we live so far out in the country that only the cows would hear me. But
I would do it, but I might.
Where
I live, I might get beat up, so I don't want to do that.
You could get shot.
Yeah, I could get shot. Yes, nobody's going to shoot me. They love me.
But I just want to talk about Corey for a while, because and what's really scary is the metamorphosis that this. He's obviously damaged. I mean, and when we talked to, we had Missy on here, and she's so knowledgeable with all the, the psychological profiles and the nuts and bolts of what this abuse does to the personality, and you just see it in him, dude. I mean, he's morphing into Michael Jackson, for God's sake, and that can't be a good thing. And all the stuff that swirled around Michael Jackson and all the creepy shit that he was doing for all those years, and well, they never convicted the guy, but the stuff that he was doing was just unacceptable on it, whether he was convicted or not. But it's like Corey Feldman is melding into Michael Jackson, and that's, I don't know, that's a red flag to me. And we were just, we were talking about this before the show, but they know this guy has information. And when I saw him on the Today Show, this was like, I think about 6 months to 8 months ago, and for that guy and that band to be on the Today Show, that had to be a payoff. I mean, it was the worst music. I mean, the poor guy, they were.
It was silly. It was silly.
And people were merciless on social media, attacking him. He like broke down. It was just so pathetic, But nobody gets on the Today Show that hasn't been backed, and this was supposed to be some big tour that he's going on, and it costs a lot of money. I mean, just to put they were horrible, but just to have that band on stage and the amount of people that were there, that's a hell of a lot of money. Who's paying for that? You know that they're not selling any records. You know they're not getting any airplay on any radio stations. What? And then it was really weird. My wife and I were down in Gainesville, and we saw Puddle's Pity Party. He's a singing clown. Just don't worry about that. But look him up. He's really good. He's on YouTube. But the guy's really talented. But he was playing in just a small little dive bar in Gainesville, and we were looking at the playbills, and guess who was coming next week? Corey Feldman in this extravaganza show. And if you see, I don't think this theater that 100 people. So how are they're debuting him on the Today Show, but he's playing in, I'm trying to remember I can't even remember the name of the bar in Gainesville. It was just a small little venue. I mean, there's something wrong. That was a payoff to this guy. And he on social media and on he looks like he's high. I mean, he was just a mess, and it's like they're just keeping him going, hoping that he overdoses, so he won't be a witness. It's just
I mean, I had a different take on the Corey Feldman interview on 2020. I mean, at that time, I believe his career was dead. I mean, I don't know what his financial situation was, but most of the people blew through their money, and they had nothing left. He wasn't going to work, and this was his way. It's all he had. You have to stay relevant in some. It doesn't matter even if it's in a awful way of playing awful music in some club. It's better, it's better than sitting home and the phone's not ringing. So I believe he played a card that he knew something. Of course, he wasn't going to name names, and by just going on that interview, doing that interview, he was sending a message like, "Hey, I got nothing left to lose. So, bring me back in make me a D-lister and I'll do whatever you got to do, but just give me something." And they gave him a reality show, and
you know what they gave him? They gave him a show that documented the death of his friend.
He doesn't care. It's to them, it's better than sitting home, waiting for the phone. What's that movie? I guess it's a Betty Davis movie. It might be Betty Davis.
Or Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, yes, and like that type of thing. And she's like living his life, like the phone's still going to ring, and she's still the star. And she had is that Sunset Boulevard? Okay,
it was. What was her name?
I wouldn't. It wasn't
Gloria Swanson, I think.
Oh yeah. You are correct. And
I pulled that one out of my ass.
I mean, dude, that shit is so dark. Like, she's still living. She hasn't been a star in what, 40 years, 50 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll think of him like a Mickey Rooney. He would still go around in like his 80s and say, "I was the biggest star in I was the biggest box office draw in 1936," and it was like 1980 something. Like nobody, you knew Mickey Rooney's name, but you didn't really know who he was. You never saw him in anything.
Yeah,
and he was still going around. What's that?
Judy Garland. You know that they were fucked over. They were. I mean, the culture was so then that, boy, they couldn't even hint that anything like that happened. And what did they become? They were substance abusers. Basically, a lot of them died. And they didn't. They didn't dare even, because they would have ended up dead back then, and a lot of them still will. And you don't know. And I worry about Corey. And that it makes me mad. That show was basically showing the one guy dying. Where the fuck was Spielberg? Their buddy. That brought them into the business and cared about him. And I mean, this kid was disintegrating like they couldn't have snatched him up and put him in a treatment center. Yeah. And,
I mean, listen. I mean, once it gets a hold of you, but here's the thing. Everyone always talks about, that the child, the child acting, curse or whatever, Hollywood curse of, child actors, and they go bad. But what if? And it's like to throw the what if out there. What if it's not just the fame and everything else? What if they are sexually abused as children? That's the thing. Why is it so disproportionate that they have so many problems? Okay, well, if they're sexually abused and that's not being treated, it's not being dealt with, and they have nowhere to go, then you can't,
you can't treat the addiction. You can't, and it can't, that, and that's a great point, because trauma, and that's there's a lot of dynamics to addiction, but untreated trauma, that person will never stay clean. They just won't, or
exactly,
or stay sober. It just won't happen, because you've got that underlying major trauma, and Missy's got me. She increases my reading list, but she was talking about the complex PTSD, and I think that's what a lot of these kids suffer from because it's years and years and years.
Exactly. It's not just fame. There's something else there. Something else is going on.
Yeah,
that's causing that.
Oh, fame. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got to be fame because,
right.
You know, making a lot of money and having a nice lifestyle. Yeah, that fucks people up. You know, you just can't.
Right. And it's not an optimum. You know, it's not an optimum lifestyle, but they could, you know, ride off into the sunset or whatever. They're you know, I think there's something else there, and I think the thing that is there is that a majority of them are sexually molested. And as kids, you know, like, listen, they're who's going to get the job? You know, they always say, you know, sleep your way to the top. I mean, you know, they say it, you know, with, you know, even 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, whatever, you know, everyone can act, everyone's pretty, everyone's this, everyone's that. Who's going to get the job?
Yeah.
Well, what if it's the same thing with the kids?
It is. And no, there's no what if about it. You know, we know that it is. And you watch an Open Secret, you know what it is. And if you think it was just those kids in that documentary, you're out of your mind. It's all these kids. I mean, it's probably every one of them. I mean, because these assholes, and look, when a scumbag like Harvey Weinstein or Weinstein, whatever his fucking name is, can be as powerful as he is in that whole with his friends Hillary and Bill Clinton, and you know, can do the shit that he's gotten away with, and a grown man, you know, an ex-NFL guy, you know, imagine what these kids are being exposed to. And it's, you just can't imagine. There's I don't have an imagination that screwed up that can even imagine, other than the research that I've done, and I know that whatever we think it is, it's probably 100 times worse.
I don't remember why it started coming up, but Sarah Jessica Parker, the Sex and the City,
right?
Chick. She went on a late night talk show, and she said when she first went out, she got her break in excuse me, as Annie. I might have been on Broadway. On Broadway after Andrea McArdle. And then she moved out to Hollywood, and there was a certain apartment complex where a lot of the parents and the kids would live. And she was I don't remember what, it might have been on Jimmy Kimmel, and she was just telling about basically how there were just creepy guys hanging around this apartment complex, and he was kind of like laughing about it. Maybe I'll look it up for next show. It just popped into my head, and it was like, you know, and then they're just like laughing about it, like, oh yeah, there's all these like creepy dudes like hanging around, you know, an apartment complex where your parent, you know, because nobody had enough, you know, nobody was a star yet. They were going out to Hollywood to be a star, but that was like, that's where everybody went to live before you sort of made it, and but it was just the way they talk. They talk about it in such like a, you know, like reminiscing, you know. Well, that's not funny.
No,
that's not.
No.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's what we talk about, and it's the culture that has devalued human life and children's lives. You know, it's like they're going to tell a little funny story about molesters hanging around. What the fuck is funny about it? Like,
yeah. Instead of saying like, you know, like, God, I hope that place is, you know, burned to the ground. I hope somebody's doing something about this. But it's just that thing. It's like, well, that's just the way that's just the way it works. And
speaking the truth about their industry, that it's just a meat grinder for children.
Right. You know, it's like, well, you know, you got the opportunity to make $1 million, you know, or millions of dollars. So, you know, like, you know,
you got to put up with little things like child rape, you know.
Yeah. right. Like
get ahead.
That's what they tell you. Hey, you want to make it in this town, but
it's just another area of our society. But and it needs a hell of a lot more focus, and it's going to get it now. And but that's
something. There's a storm brewing with this.
Where do you but where do you think all this sexualization of kids, all this normalizing of pedophilia, where does that? That's where it originates. This is the dream factory. This is the how propaganda is manufactured in this country all the way down, and we've seen that through the cartoons, subliminal, pedophile images in cartoons back to the 40s. This has been going on for a long time, and it's still going on. And this is the epicenter of what I would call, it's like the Ministry of, propaganda in Nazi Germany. That's ours. Hollywood is our Ministry of propaganda, and fat slobs, perverts like Harvey Weinstein are running it. And you think he's the only one out there?
But but once again, okay, fine. We know this stuff exists, but where are the authorities? Where are the experts? Where are the people that are supposed to be knowing that this stuff exists? Like, where are the academics? The academias in all of this.
They're at the Kinsey Institute. That's where they're at.
Right. That study, 12 years of their lives, devoted to research on, sex,
Bailey just tweeted into the Twitter line that place is called Oakwood Apartments in L.A.
Oakwood, that sounds, okay, that actually sounds familiar. All right,
They flocked there during pilot season, and that I think she said that, I
don't remember when the interview was from, but it was she said I think she said it was still there. But she was laughing. She was talking about it fondly, like, oh, those were my indoctrination to Hollywood, and like, wait a second.
Those silly child raping
you're staying at a seedy apartment where there's pedophiles hanging out, like, preying on children, and you're like laughing about it now because you made it. Well, how about for the one that you made it? How about the tens of thousands that didn't make it? And then we wonder why there's so many problems in this country.
And
so much mental illness.
Talk about tens of thousands. The kids that never get near a Hollywood set,
not a whiff,
up by these scumbags right off the bus. I mean, and like LAPD doesn't know about that. They don't know that these scumbags. They wait at the bus stations. They wait at the train stations. They wait at restaurants. Sure. At cheap motels. Are you telling me that? We had that big sweep though, Howie. The federal authorities, Operation Broken Heart. That shit should not be going on now. It's going on right now. And if a 11 or 12-year-old or 13-year-old kid gets off a bus in Hollywood, there's somebody waiting for him, and it ain't. Steven Spielberg might get him later, but he's not the one that's meeting him coming off the bus. Fuck.
Mind-boggling stuff.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling. I mean, where should we go now? I mean, you didn't know about, obviously Macaulay Culkin has had his, troubles, and he put together a band. I don't remember what year he put together the band, but it's called the Pizza Underground, and basically doing Velvet Underground songs, Velvet Underground, Lou Reed, J.J. Cale, Andy Warhol, that era, doing Velvet Underground covers under the band name of the Pizza Underground. And then, this is when, Pizzagate, and this came out like in the middle of Pizzagate. I had never seen any of this. And it's like, what? Like out of all the all right, you want to parody the Velvet Underground. Now you're going to call it the Pizza Underground.
Yes,
why?
Another one of those strange coincidences, Howie. Don't
oh yeah. Right. But you're just crazy. It could have been anything. So, but when you say pizza's some type of code word, and Macaulay Culkin, who obviously has had some issues along the way, from his cute days and Home Alone. And anybody that has,
I would. Which one of those kids escaped this? I don't see any of them escaping this. With what we already know, the research that we've done, the scumbags that just, and believe me, if Weinstein stepped down, not kicking and screaming, sexual harassment is the least of his problems. And
yeah, I mean, if this was just sexual harassment, I'm telling you right now, there's something more going on.
Yeah,
the designer.
That's how you know, because the rats, Hillary Clinton, Meryl Streep, the rats are deserting the sinking ship. So that
Donna Karen's not deserting. Did you see that today?
No.
You gotta be kidding me. The designer, Donna Karen, DKNY.
I live in the country, Harry. What do I know from DKNY?
You gotta get on Twitter once in a while, brother.
Duluth Trading Company. I like their underwear. No,
yeah.
Tell me.
No, Donna Karen. She's big. She's about 7 years old. Plastic surgery. She looks just completely awful. She tweeted out, I don't know her connection to Harvey, but she tweeted out that the women that were dressing suggestively probably were asking for it. We're asking for it. Something to that general effect. She's standing by her man, Harvey. I don't know how Donna Karen in the fashion industry and Harvey Weinstein in the Hollywood industry. I don't know when they're at. Yeah. But she said,
what?
Huh?
And we're just about out of time, but I'm going to be researching that till Thursday, and we're going to. That's the first person we're going to talk on Thursday about, and do a little digging into why she's supporting an obvious deviant pervert and attacking the victims. So, and and
I didn't want to get political about this, but not for nothing. When Hollywood 98%, maybe 99%, because if you could name 5 people that didn't not just support Hillary, go out of their way to lobby for her, to beg people to vote for her. I'm all of a sudden, like, Alyssa Milano pops up into my head that she was down in Georgia, driving people to the polls so they on Assam.
The music got us. Much more on Thursday. King of the Perverts, Part 2. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Bailey.
You know what?